It's interesting to me, the whole notion of leadership, particularly in the anti-violence movement, or really you can take it beyond that and say, in any kind of work where really we're keyed into the pain and suffering of other people. And I've noticed that there are some things that sort of come with the territory of the kind of work we do. So there are a couple of them that just stand out to me. One is the empathy that we use. Another is the advocacy we have to make changes, to help individuals make changes, to make changes in the system. And another certainly is the passion that practically everybody I've come across brings to their work. And in my way of thinking, in my experience, these come with what I've come to think of as shadows. So empathy comes with compassion fatigue. Advocacy comes with a certain amount of self-righteousness. And passion comes with exhaustion, over-functioning. And the important thing to remember about those is it's not that you can get rid of them. It's not that you can have those strengths and not have those shadow sides that come. They just are part of the work. And so if leaders don't know their own strengths and shadows, then sometimes that gets in the way of their really modeling behavior that they would hope to see in the rest of their staff. And if they don't really know their strengths and shadows, it's hard for them to wade into difficult conversations and say, you know, we really need to talk about these dynamics and how these dynamics are affecting our organization. And there's no judgment here. This is not about blaming anybody, but it's about our collectively looking at it together and seeing what we can understand. It's kind of like the process that the leaders go through with each other in the new directors learning network groups, because nobody is giving them the answer. They're kind of wrestling with it themselves.
Sometimes in the day-to-day we just get busy and we are just doing and we're going, and it's, you know, this crisis to that crisis to this demand to that demand, and it's pretty easy just to keep rolling with it without ever stopping to think, like, is this the right way to do this and handle this? There's some things I've done as a manager that maybe weren't bad, but that there were, there was a better way to do it, and a way to do it that was, more supportive for my staff, would push my program more. Every advocate I meet has so much passion, and everything, that can be a tremendous strength. It also can kind of be that shadow that we get in the habit of doing what we've always done. And we need to be open and flexible and creative and innovative. And sometimes we also have to be humble. We have to realize, you know what, the way we were doing it before isn't working right now. And we need to find a way to do it differently, and maybe admit, some things we did just wrong. It's like the whole shelter rules things, no one had any, hurtful intent in anything we do. It was all responsive, and it all seems very logical that we have all these rules because it's going to make it safe and it's going to do this. But at some point we have to realize, like, we can't keep moving forward with that kind of, framework in what we're doing. And we needed to make those changes, and it was difficult. And I think there are going to be other dramatic changes in our field. A lot of us as leaders oftentimes are very, type A, or maybe a little bit controlling, or have, strong, passionate ideas. And sometimes we just have to let it go. Give them the opportunity to do that, to realize, what, they may do things a little bit differently, but it's their process. It's their responsibility and their job to carry out. And I think, especially for myself, sometimes just letting go is the most difficult part. We always think, oh, it'll just be faster, quicker, easier for me to be the one to do it. And we have our own capacity, and it's not fair to deprive staff of their opportunity to do things too.
In the very beginning, it was very grassroots, very community developed, very do what needs to be done now. And then we began to plan for more long range, knowing we'd be at this a while. The folks who are doing the advocacy work, many of them have come from the ranks of those who have been experienced victimization at one time or another. And they know so much. But because many of them, particularly people from marginalized communities, have not come through routes of academia, they don't get hired as managers. The Leadership Academy is teaching the skills that those folks would acquire in a formal education process somewhere, and giving them an opportunity.
A lot of people who come from a lot of small towns, and basically when you know a lot of people who know your parents and this type of stuff, you sometimes can be defined and put into a category of whether you're going to be successful or whether you're going to be a failure, where you're not going to be so smart. And what happens is when you really understand your God piece of what He has given you with training, it just helps to say, okay, that was a lot of negativity that I received when I was a kid. But in all actuality, those people was wrong.